I think too. So what people notice is your weight change. That's what starts the conversation, I suppose. But what I try to bring it back to, and sometimes you've got to, they're only really interested for 10 seconds or 20 seconds in here. But what I try to emphasize is that I just feel so much better. And also, I try to emphasize that it's actually really easy because people will say, "Oh, you're amazing for being able to, just not have to decline the Tim Tams or not having the cake that everyone's having." And I'm like, no, no, it's actually really easy.
Lynn, how did you find carnivore?
Hi, Dave. So thank you firstly for having me on. It's lovely to meet you and to be on. So basically, I'm actually probably more keto, moving towards ketovore. Although I'm sort of trying to perhaps get more carnivore. I'm probably now eating about 10 to 15 grams of carbs per day. But basically, it was a slow process. And I think really when my health started to deteriorate, that's what probably was the prompting thing. And that's what has, been the biggest change, really, plus my weight as well. And so that's why, eventually it's now that I've got to it, I'm going to stick with it. So, it's easy to stick to basically. So I guess my husband has always been, since we were married, someone who was always saying, like, oh, we need to eat more meat, we need to eat more protein, more fat, like you have the chops and eat the fat. And I was always like following the dietary guidelines and thought that that was bad. Even though when I was really young, probably the first 10 years of my life, my parents used to always cook, pork chops and steak and veggies and the three veg and meat and what sometimes it was our own meat off cattle that we had as well. So in the first 10 years of my life, I probably ate reasonably well and no processed foods hardly at all. And then I think that was around that because I'm 51. It was around that time in the 80s in Australia that the lean meat message started to come through. And so I sort of had that in my head that I had to eat lean meat and not much meat. I didn't have much beef, hardly at all. It was often chicken or fish was about it. A little bit of beef occasionally, or lamb occasionally, but not very much. And my husband was always basically, if he ever cooked, he'd make sure we had like we'd have a roast, like he'd cook a roast up, or he'd cook some chops or steak. And when I wasn't like when I was having a meal at lunchtime, just that I'd cook for myself and he'd cook something for himself, he'd always cook that sort of stuff. So he was always there in the back of my head, I suppose, sort of saying, "Oh, we probably need to eat more of those sorts of things." Um, and then, probably about 6 years ago, my husband actually tried a ketosis experiment. My husband is an engineer, so he's always researching things and trying to find out solutions to things. And um, he basically just wanted to see what it was like to go into ketosis and see what effects it had on his health and everything and on him personally. And so he did it only for a couple of months, and it was very much an experiment. And then it ended. And didn't he didn't? I think he lost a bit of weight. I don't know if he probably wasn't really following any particular guidelines around that, but it was just an experiment. And around the same time, also there was a colleague at my work that she actually had started losing weight. And then she went overseas. Um, and I remember she came back. She actually, I'm pretty sure, went to the Denver low carb, one of the conferences there. And she came back and she did a talk at work. And yeah, and everyone sort of listened to it and everything, and it was like this, like it was from another planet. Like it was just so foreign to anything that really I'd heard of before. And I remember she gave us a quiz at the end, and it was a multiple choice, and I think I got two, because it was just so different to what I'd always what I'd been told with the dietary guidelines. Um, and anyhow, then she continued to lose more weight. And I still, because I was, reasonably healthy then, so I didn't really think, anything of it. And it was only later on so that was, like probably 6 or so years ago. Um, and I guess I didn't used to question what I was told. I just followed the dietary guidelines. So anyhow, in 2020, I think was when I first. My husband was watching a bit of Ivor Cummins, so the Fat Emperor, on YouTube, and um, yeah, and I remember we watched one of his videos, and again, I wasn't probably quite ready for it yet, but basically, yeah, as people probably know who know Ivor, how he's an engineer as well, so that's why my husband quite likes him and the way he approaches things and researches things. And he talks about how he got a blood test back and his metabolic markers weren't very good, even though he thought he was quite healthy at the time. And so he went away, did all this research as engineers do, and looked at all the scientific literature and found that, yeah, this low carb idea is actually what I probably need to be doing. So he did that. And I think it was only for like 6 weeks or so. I'm not sure exactly. And yeah, he then had another blood test and he turned around his blood test results in a very short period of time. And so, yeah, so that was sitting there in the back of my head as well. And then probably, and partly maybe because of, the 2020, 2021 period of lockdowns and not sort of doing activities and stuff, I gradually started to put on weight and I got bigger and bigger. And so I was probably, and I, wasn't, yeah, just all your healthy lifestyle things were gone out the window. Um, and I basically, yeah, so I was probably back around 2013, 2014, probably like 90 kilos or so, which, or early 90 kilos, which I think is probably just over 200 pounds, roughly. And I'd gradually put on weight over the years, and then but it really culminated in probably 21, really, and 2020 and 2021. And I got up to, I was actually 118 kilograms, which is 260 pounds, in that was sort of basically mid 2022. And I was starting to just get really tired. I'd be exhausted halfway through the day, and I'd feel like I needed a nap every afternoon, pretty much. I work part time, so on those days I couldn't have a nap, but on the days I didn't work, I'd frequently find myself just going and having a sleep, and it'd be like a 2 hour sleep, and then I'd feel semi normal again to the afternoon. Um, and yeah, but just if I was taking kids, it was a busy day and I was driving kids to activities and things, I'd find myself, I was actually felt quite dangerous driving because I just felt so exhausted. I just had, yeah, this overwhelming tiredness. And that's, I think, when I realised I've got to do something about this. And I sort of, yeah, that's when the low carb idea came back to me. And we rewatched, for some reason, we ended up rewatching Ivor's video. My husband was still watching him and stuff. And yeah, we rewatched it. And this light bulb went off and I'd already seen it once a couple of years prior, but I wasn't ready really at the time, whereas now I was ready. And so that was early 2022 sometime. And yeah, and so I didn't really know what I was doing. Like I just heard this video from Ivor um, and talking about his success with it, but I didn't really know how to go about it. So and I didn't know that, how many grams of carbs was an ideal amount. I still had in my head probably that, I don't know, just reducing it was okay. So I think I was probably at least 300 grams of carbs per day. Like bread, the amount of bread, we were always going to the bakery, we'd stop at the bakery. We'd pick up things, like the kids were always hungry, so we'd pick up things when we were out at the bakery. But we'd have pasta dishes a lot. We'd have rice dishes a lot. And so I think it was probably about 300 grams. And I thought in 2022 when I was lowering it, so I was having like one sandwich a day as opposed to like, toast in the morning I'd just have, and sandwich at lunch I'd have just the two pieces of bread per day rather than four. But I was still, and I was trying really hard not to eat sugar and processed stuff, but I was still giving in because I still had I wasn't satiated and I was still hungry. And so sometimes I'd give in if it was there in front of me. So I think I lost a tiny bit during 2020. Like, if I made pasta, I'd have a smaller serving of pasta rather than the bigger serving that I used to have. But I still didn't really know about the increasing your protein intake and upping your fat and how that satiates you. I didn't really know that and understand that at that point. Um, and then I think the next sort of light bulb moment was just before Christmas last year. So I've been trying all year to go what I thought was low carb and lost a couple of kilos maybe. And and I think I've sent you pictures I think of what I looked like in December last year. So I was still pretty close. I was probably 116 or something, not 118, but something like that. And basically we had a Christmas lunch at work, which made sure I took along like a roast chicken and some ham, and just a salad, like a tossed salad with no dressing and stuff. And I was really good at the Christmas lunch for work. And then afterwards, all the food comes back around the photocopier, which is the tradition in my workplace. There's always treats at the photocopier, like people are just bringing in Tim Tams, which are these decadent Australian biscuits, or cake, or just really just snacks all the time. There's stuff there. So there was this feast still left over from the Christmas lunch. And of course, it got to like 3 in the afternoon or something, and I was just at the printer, the photocopier, and I was like, I'll just have a little plate as my afternoon tea, like just a little. And of course, I ended up with 4 plates or something. And
I'm just trying to imagine. I'm just trying to imagine the situation in the office around 3 o'clock, and it would be like, Lynn, where are you? I'm just doing photocopies.
yeah. Well, we're all like that. And it's still happening at my work now. Like, just yesterday at work, there was Tim Tams at the photocopier. It's a tradition. And I haven't had a Tim Tam all year, but they're always there. They're there probably 3 days out of 5 in the week. Like they're there. Um, and so anyhow, the next day I was starting holidays, and I just thought, look, I've got 2 weeks off work. It's Christmas, which is probably an ideal time for all the stuff. But I knew I was hosting Christmas, and I could control it better. What was in our house, and so I made sure that I was the one providing all the healthy stuff, and my sisters brought their families brought the unhealthy stuff, and took most of the leftovers home. Left a little bit for my kids and my husband, but there wasn't any for me. And so I basically just, from that day, like I think it was like the 22nd of December, I haven't had any like processed stuff, sugar, and I just had really, chicken and ham on Christmas Day and a small salad. I did have a low carb beer on Christmas Day, but then that was it. And no desserts, no processed stuff. I think I had a little bit of cheese, like hard cheese and stuff, just as a snack thing. And so the other thing too then, so it started my holiday, so I was able to control it. But I also started researching YouTube. I had time to, so I'd get up, like, because it's summer in Christmas time here. I'd wake up early, like 5 o'clock in the morning when the light, it's getting light and it's hot, and you get up before it gets too hot and do stuff. But I'd watch, probably an hour or two of videos in each day that I was on the holidays. And that's where I got to know. Actually, that's where I first. So I found a lot of the people everyone knows, but I found like Carnivorous Me, Amanda, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing! How much success, and she was showing how much weight loss she'd had, but her non-scale victories were just like. And so I went back and found lots of her old ones, and it was just lovely to see. And so then I just kept researching, all the different people would pop up, and eventually you popped up, of course, on my feed. I think you were a bit later on, maybe March or something this year. But I watched, all the regulars. Low Carb Down Under, I think I was watching from quite early on. I really, really like their stuff, and Dr. Paul Mason and Dr. Fetke. And then I'd go and look up the articles as well that they talked about. If there was a scientific paper that they talked about, I'd go and look that up and have a read of that as well. So yeah, so I actually finally started to do some proper research and understanding of what low carb, properly meant. And so I was trying to, my carbs then, I was basically trying to keep, I was probably 20 to 30, maybe 40 some days when I first started. But yeah, I was, before that, during 2022, I was probably 150 easily. So I just cut out pasta. Like I haven't had any pasta since then. I haven't had, I think I've had like, I don't know, a teaspoonful of rice one time that someone offered me a bit of a sushi roll, and I sort of felt like I couldn't really say no. That was early on. Whereas now I haven't had anything. That was January. Um, I've had barely, I mean, potato. I haven't had potato for months and months, like probably 8, 9 months. I think I did have a tiny serving at one point in April or something, and but I haven't had any since. And I just realised you get to see the taste. If you have it, you just get the taste for the carbs, and yeah, so it's better just to avoid it all basically. And bread, no bread whatsoever for a year.
And
Yes.
I've got to say that the fact that you started on December 22nd, especially when you were gonna be part of the people preparing the food for Christmas, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, thanks. I think because I, yeah, by that stage, and I started to feel health benefits almost, within a few days. I felt them a bit throughout the year, but really felt it in that 2 weeks. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think once, as soon as I cut it out, like, so by Christmas Day, it was a few days into it. I remember making a caramel tart. Like, we just, I don't know if you have them in other countries. It's condensed milk, Nestle condensed milk. That's like, yeah, and the kids really like it, and I really like it. Used to. I mean, now I've still got some sitting there from a year ago, like, that I haven't used and I haven't given the kids. And I just look at it, and go, oh yeah, that's fine. It's in the cupboard. And if it's still okay, I may make a caramel tart for the kids this Christmas because they really like it. But I remember making it on Christmas morning, and I was like, I really don't need this. So something just, I don't know, something just clicked. I'm not sure. I think, like I say, you've just got to be ready. I think it's when you're ready, you're ready. And yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
until that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just like, there's a point you get to where the switch just kinda goes for you, and then it's like, "Okay, well, I don't need this anymore."
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And And I think because I saw gains, like, very quickly. Like, I remember seeing some video in those early days, about losing your water weight and your face getting like thinner, and I went and looked in the mirror, and I was like, yeah, my face is actually looking slimmer. And this was like, it was only, I don't know, a week into it or something. I'm not sure exactly, but it wasn't much into it. And so that was really inspiring and motivating, to have that. So, and I think that comes back to what Amanda in Carnivorous Me talks about, is those non-scale victories. If you start to feel better, then yeah, and you're seeing those gains, then yeah, that really helps you with your progress.
Especially like, I found early on you get into the habit of weighing yourself all the time. It's just like, "Oh, well, I've gotta see weight I lost between yesterday and today." You get on the scale, and then often it's like, "Oh, didn't lose anything." But if you instead of worrying about the scale, you focus on how you're looking in the mirror, that makes a big difference because day to day, you can see a difference, right?
Yeah, yeah, and how you're feeling. So I started to, I mean, also I suppose because it was holidays, I was probably, resting a bit more anyhow, so I didn't feel as tired. But then by the time it got to the end of the holidays and I was back at work, I didn't start that tiredness was going, that afternoon tiredness, and so my energy levels were increasing. And I think that was the big thing, is just how I felt energy wise, and not that overwhelming tiredness. Yeah, so basically, I think I was, probably pre-diabetic. I didn't sort of have a blood test or anything, but just the fact I was just so overwhelmingly tired, I think that was a pretty good indicator. And the fact that now I'm not. Um, And that went within weeks. Like I can't remember exactly, but sometime probably late January, early February, I was just, yeah, it was pretty much, similar to what I am now. Yeah, like really good. My clearer thinking probably took a little bit longer to come, but I'd say, yeah, that over the whole last year, that's definitely my thinking has got clearer. Um, yeah, I mean, people often talk about that brain fog, and I think, yeah, I was sort of just on autopilot half the time, and now I feel like I can think clearer. Um, Another big thing was I've got a knee injury in my right knee because I used to play lots of basketball and bushwalking and stuff up and down the hills. And so I've got a little tear in my meniscus and it's sort of just floating there. And so that after that happened, whenever that happened, like 4 or 5 years ago, um, it basically, well, they said I would need a knee replacement eventually, but try to lose weight, try to exercise and stuff. But it was always achy. Like it was just always I was aware of it being there. And over night time it often kept me awake. Like it would, and particularly if I'd done like some mowing or something, during the day, like when I'd done a bit more activity, it would be really painful and I'd stay awake quite a lot throughout the night. So that's just gone. Like, and so I still mow and everything. And now I just got so much more energy to mow. And I mean, yes, I feel a little bit tighter after I mow, but there's no aching now. Sometimes there's a slight twinge there. I think if I've overdone it a bit because it is an injury, but certainly the inflammation's just gone. And so that's really good. So that's helped my sleep, I think, as well, because I haven't got that pain. I've also there's other pains that have gone too, like you have accumulated injuries from through life. Like I've got my right elbow is a bit dodgy, but it's again it doesn't get sore anymore, and that's from an old injury as well. So I don't even notice that at all anymore. Um, with my sleep too, my husband told me very early on that I stopped snoring. And yeah, so he's really glad about that. Like I think it was like late January he commented on that that's how quick it was. It was very quick to go away. And so I think my sleeping is probably better too, because I mean, whether I don't know if I had undiagnosed sleep apnea, I don't know, but yeah, it's all fine now, and I'm sleeping so much more thoroughly. Um, I think I'm calmer now. I mean, with 3 kids, I used to sometimes feel like um, my temperature raising and yeah, feeling stressed by things that were happening sometimes if they weren't listening to, to what they were told or whatever. Whereas now, I mean, I still get this. Yeah, you still get a bit upset with them at times, but I'm just feeling calmer overall with dealing with things when they happen. So yeah, so that's really good. My teeth always just feel clean now because I guess yeah, I'm not eating any sugar, any processed stuff. Sometimes I forget if I've actually brushed them because I'm like they just feel so clean all the time. So that's really good. No bleeding gums. I saw that on a comment. One of the things I like with YouTube is reading people's comments, and I remember someone commenting on that one time, and I was like, yeah, actually, and I hadn't even realised it had stopped, but that was always used to have bleeding gums. Well, for the last however many years, but yeah, and when I went to the dentist for my checkup in the middle of the year, he praised me. I'm like, you must be really doing lots to look after your teeth. And I'm like,
Uh, yeah, you're like, I've got a secret for you. I'm doing less than I ever have before.
yeah, yeah. And I actually said to him, I'm low carb. I say low carb rather than keto, and to people, not to sort of scare them off the conversation, just sort of test the waters a bit to start with. And most people don't even know really what it means anyhow. But yeah, he was like, no, it's what you're doing. And I'm thinking, well, no, it's not. Like as brushing my teeth and flossing my teeth better. So yeah, it's interesting. Um, oh, my fingernails are really strong now. Like they used to always crack quite easily. Now they're just really strong. They very rarely crack or anything. So that's really good. My hair, I think, is stronger as well. My skin, I think, is generally a lot clearer. I still, I've had psoriasis on and off during my life, but not to too bad. Like my mum used to have it really really bad, so nothing to the extent she used to have it, but I'll get little spots more in winter when you're not getting as much sun and so forth. Um, and that is still there. Like, I mean, we've just come out of winter, so it's already getting a bit better now. It's summer again and sort of being out in the sun a bit more. Um, but I'm hoping maybe with moving, so with being more kidable now and moving towards carnival, maybe that will help the psoriasis. Um, and also the other thing is I've always had really bad hay fever allergies, like really bad since I was young. And I'm hoping maybe that will help that as well. So I'm just sort of experimenting, and I guess by cutting out things, you can see if there's certain things that are, yeah, you're reacting to and stuff. So yeah. So, but overall, yeah, it's just amazing. I feel so much healthier and happier, yeah, and calmer, and yeah, and so my next goal, I suppose, now is sort of looking at perhaps doing a bit more exercise, trying to see how I can fit that in with running kids around and everything, and work. But I'd like to sort of start, and I feel able to now. So I'm now down to 89.7 kilograms, which is 198 pounds. I converted it. So I've lost 60, yeah, basically 60 pounds in the last year. Um, and I'm now able to do more stuff, I think. I feel more energetic, whereas I couldn't have done that initially. And I could have probably started doing some of that middle of the year. I sort of tried middle of the year, but then just got busy with, with kids' stuff. But that's my New Year's resolution.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's an awesome list of things. And
Yeah.
I mean, for anyone watching that hasn't started this way of eating and might be considering it, I think the important thing is when you're going through the list, each one can seem like it may not be that big. For example, forgetting to brush your teeth or not having bleeding gums anymore or whatever. But when you think about those things all on a day-to-day basis, like, I mean, this is it adds up because it's something you deal with every single day, you
Mm.
know? And sometimes the simplest things like, the no more bleeding gums or, your teeth always feeling clean and fresh and stuff like that. It just makes such a difference to your life. It's such a huge improvement.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely.
I mean, I've experienced this stuff with teeth and bleeding gums as well, and one of the most amazing things for me that is so small was going to a hotel and realizing I could finally use a hotel toothbrush. Because you know
Yeah.
how they're always harder, so,
Yeah.
like, your gums would always bleed with that.
Yeah, so
So,
it's
yeah,
easy. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's much
Um,
easier. I think
mm,
too, like, I mean, so there's all those health benefits, but just shopping is easier too. Like, I mean, I still buy stuff for the kids and my husband, although I've been steering them down this path a bit as well. But they certainly are eating much more healthy and much less processed stuff in the house now to what it used to be. So when I go shopping, I'm not like a lot of your viewers where they literally just go to the meat aisle. I do still duck into the other aisles a little bit for the kids, but I don't get tempted by any of it. I just pick up the one or two items I need in those aisles, which there's not much that I need in those aisles. And it's basically the meat, the dairy, and the fruit and veg for the kids, pretty much the odd bit of veg. But it's so quick and easy, and yeah, there's a whole central aisles. Like you just go around the outside of the in Australia, the way it's set up, the outside of the store is those ones that I need, and you don't even hardly duck into the middle aisles. It feels really good, yeah, and simple. As a parent, as someone trying to prepare meals, it just feels so much simpler.
yeah. So it's kind of the same situation as me. Like I do the shopping weekly for the family, and for me, it's actually a daily thing. I just go in and get the meat or the eggs that I need. So it's on the outside, but yeah, for the family, I'm going into the middle of the shop. But
Yeah.
I'm interested, like your husband was really the catalyst for this, right? He discovered this doing his experiment, and then his interest in ivermectins. Has he not been, persuaded to kind of go back and try it again or anything after seeing your results?
He's certainly working. He's made some quite big changes as well. He's actually lost 9 kilograms this year. So he weighed himself again this morning for me, and he's lost 9 kilograms over the last year, and so he still has a little bit of like chocolate, but more like dark chocolate occasionally. Like he'll do something like that. We've cut out all the crisps. Like we don't have them in the house really. I occasionally buy a packet for the kids, like a packet for each of them, and that's theirs. It's going to last. You're not getting any more for a week or two. Whereas before we'd buy, there's the 20 packs. I don't know, probably other countries have them, of the snack packs. And I'd be buying them every few days. And we were just munching our way as a family through 20 packets of chips in a few days. And I mean, it's terrible to think, and what's in those, like just the carbs in those, the oils in those. It's terrible to think what we were eating. So we don't have any of those in the house. I cook much bigger, like my meal serving size with having the protein and the fat in it is much better amount now. So my husband was always hungry before because I wasn't feeding him enough. I was, yeah, I was skimping on the protein and on the saturated fat, and he'd be hungry, and I would be hungry, and that's why we'd snack of an evening, and while the kids would snack more. Whereas now, so I think my meat purchasing, I worked out, is probably about 4 times. I buy 4 times as much. Well, I buy 4 times as much for each meal, actually. So it's probably more than that because we weren't eating like much, like we eat chicken half the time, like, or fish. But the fact every meal we're having, there's this huge amount of meat. So, like, we go through a kilo of meat basically for a meal, like for a dinner for our, because it's my husband, myself, and the 3 kids. And whereas before I would have, probably, occasionally we'd have spaghetti bolognese with like a 500 gram, half a kilo of beef mince, which you're talking about that in one of your videos. I just watched actually that's ground beef because you're talking about that in a video I watched. I know that the Japanese called it something else. I'll pronounce it differently,
Yeah,
but yes,
they say minchi, and when I said mince, they thought it was like peppermints, it's like
that's right. I was listening to that talk just recently, and yeah, and so yeah, I used to occasionally have 500 grams of beef mince, and whereas now I need at least a kilo for our meal for the evening. And but we weren't having that much. Like often, if I made a pasta in the past, I would have, put salami in it or like a carbonara. Like there was hardly any meat in it whatsoever. It was unhealthy meat, like it was meat that was processed and stuff that I was putting in it, and it was very small quantities and huge amounts of pasta. So now I'm filling everyone up on the meat and the saturated fat, and they'll just have a side salad that's small. I mean, with the kids, they complain sometimes like that I don't make spaghetti bolognese with the pasta very often now for them. I'll occasionally treat them and give them a little bit of pasta, and I give them a very small serving of pasta. They'll still have like a sandwich often for school lunch. Um, but apart from that, they're not, and we don't have stir fries like we used to. Like it's just like I'll make up something like a stir fry with healthy sort of natural stuff, no seed oils and stuff in it, for them sometimes. But I won't really put any rice with it. They'll just have a salad on the side, or a bit of veggies or something on the side.
and and with that, giving them the extra servings and stuff, like you said, your husband and yourself, you realized that we weren't actually eating enough. But for them as well, is that helping them to you'd notice they're maybe not asking for a snack as much as they would have before?
Yeah, I mean, I think they still, one of them gets a lot of stuff offered to her at school and stuff, so she still has very much a sugar addiction. The other two not so much, and that's the thing. It's everywhere in society, and they've got to navigate that. As to, like nowadays, you go and play a basketball game. One of them plays basketball, and they get a chocolate treat at the end of every game. Like when I played basketball for years, we never got a chocolate treat at the end of every game. And then at school they'll have like super duper. They're the, I don't know what you call them. How you describe it? They're the ice lollies that in summer they'll have them on a Friday afternoon at Tuck Shop. The kids can buy them for 50 cents, and so it's just pure sugar and processed colorings and things. But there's all these things that are just there. There's more parties, I think kids get invited to. Kids just have more access to all that and get offered that all the time. So, yeah, they've got to learn how to sort of navigate that. But at least at home, it's much less of that stuff around, that processed and sugar. It's much less. And so, yeah, I think they are. We try to have like boiled eggs in the fridge that they can get. I get yogurt, like Greek yogurt, no sugar in it for them to have as a snack. And we get biltong and jerky that's actually like freshly made, so it's not like the packet stuff that's processed, like all the preservatives and stuff. We get that reasonably regularly, and they love that, and so that's something nice as a snack. Um, yeah, and I just don't buy that other stuff so often. I think because they're having bigger meal portions, they're not getting as hungry. Yeah, and the same with my husband and obviously me. I mean, I only eat basically 2 meals a day most days because I'm just not hungry in the morning. Like I haven't eaten yet this morning. It's now 11:30 here. Um, yeah, so
And so, yeah, you haven't eaten since 11. Sorry, it's 11:30 now. You haven't eaten since you've woken up. Like, are you feeling like when do you start to feel hungry? Like, are you sitting there
yeah.
now with your tummy rumbling, or
No, I mean, because some days I would be. Today I'm not. I mean, it's quite hot too here today, so I think you're not as hungry perhaps when it's summer and stuff. But yeah, I mean, normally I'd go from, it depends, maybe the last meal's 8 o'clock, and like we finish dinner by 8 o'clock, depends on kids' activities. And then, I mean, I'm actually fasting this morning though, because I did have a little bit of milk in my coffee this morning. So technically I've had that tiny little bit at 6 o'clock this morning. So, I mean, I'll have, after we finish this interview, I'll go and have lunch, and yeah, and then I'll basically eat again. I may have some sort of snack. Another snack I have is like a can of sardines or anchovies or something. I just find that's easy just to pull out if you're at home. I don't do that when I'm out. And
you don't want to
um,
pull those out around the photocopier?
I don't take them to work. But I find that's a good, easy snack if I'm feeling a bit hungry at home in the afternoon. Or I'll have a bit of yogurt as well, or a few nuts. I'll have macadamias, a handful. But I think I used to have too many nuts when I first was transitioning. I think that was probably because I wasn't having big enough meal sizes. I was having too many nuts. So now I just try to not put them in a plate or anything. I just put them in my hand, and so then okay, that's all I'm having, and then I'm actually probably not really that hungry. It's more just because it's afternoon tea and other people are eating around me or whatever. I take nuts to work sometimes because yeah, I can nibble on that if people are around me with the other foods.
And have you had any reaction from them at work about how you're eating?
Um, so I mean, myself and the lady I referred to, she's still doing low carb, and so she's lost heaps of weight. I'm not sure exactly, but oh yeah, heaps. I'm not sure. So we will sometimes talk about it, probably more end of the day when sort of there's hardly one left in the office. We'll have a quick chat about something to do with low carb. I think she's moving a bit more towards carnivore too, as well. So yeah. But other people, they'll ask me when we're in the kitchenette and I'm heating up, like I might just have, say, some ground beef, the mince, with a bit of onion in it and a bit of like basil or something in it, and garlic or something, maybe not garlic if it's at work, but and or I might have, like, I cooked up carnivorous meat and then did this chuck roast slow cooked meal the other day that I was trying out. So I had that for lunch yesterday at work. That I cooked up a couple of batches and I've just got them there to take to work. So it was just that with a little bit of beef stroganoff type spices in it that I had for lunch yesterday at work, and I put just a tiny little bit of cucumber with it. Just, and that's sort of still doing that to, just in case someone asks me where's your veggies. I think I'm still a bit hesitant at work, like, but I'm working. I'm lowering that. So yeah, and I tend to usually have those once a day, like one of those 2 meals a day. They'll have a little bit of veggies, and it's very small side amount. Um, yeah, I think people are just they're so following the dietary guidelines. They're just sort of in shock. I think they just can't believe that. Yeah, that and you see other people, they've got all their carbs when they're heating up their lunches and stuff. I think it's so ingrained that until you get to that point where you need to make a change for your own health, it's very hard to go against those dietary guidelines and what you've been told most of your life or all your life, depending how old you are. There's certainly a few people I work with who, yeah, they're very praising of how much weight I've lost, and certainly ask lots of questions and stuff. And so maybe down the track, because they do, keep asking how I'm going and stuff with it, that maybe it's just sort of planting little seeds that they will eventually try it, and I'm always, there to. I'll be happy to tell them about it if they ask about it. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, it's good to be just talking about it as you go, because a lot of people they are just kind of floating along following the guidelines, right? It's just one of those things. Life's busy, people have got responsibilities, family, all this kind of thing. And it's just that, okay, well, these are the guidelines. I just know I know that if I follow these, I'll be okay because the government said that that's the case. And it's like other things in their life, they're not thinking about them. Like they get on the train or they get on the bus, and it's automatic. This is how I get on the bus. And if you told them, well, actually, that's not the way you meant to get on the bus. You meant to get on the bus by first getting on the roof and then going over the other side and getting in. They would go, you're crazy. But if they
yeah,
watched you doing it over a period of time and then realized, "Oh, she's getting some reward or some benefit by doing this every day," and and it's not an effort for her, maybe I should start getting on the bus that way too,
yeah,
you know? Just like, people are probably asking you about it, but going, "Yeah, it's just too difficult."
yeah,
But once they see you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you're still having success and, you know, especially when you've reduced vegetables or fruits to a certain level and they're going, "And she hasn't got scurvy yet either." It's,
yeah,
"Okay, well, I'm gonna give it a try now."
yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, they've got to be at that point. I mean, I think too. So what people notice is your weight change. That's what starts the conversation, I suppose. But what I try to bring it back to, and sometimes you've got to, they're only really interested for 10 seconds or 20 seconds in here. But what I try to emphasize is that I just feel so much better. And also, I try to emphasize that it's actually really easy, because people will say, "Oh, you're amazing for being able to, to not have to decline the Tim Tams or not having the cake that everyone's having." And I'm like, no, no, it's actually really easy. Like, this way of eating is really easy. You've just got to get through that first couple of weeks, and 2 to 3 weeks, and then that's the hard bit. But then once you get through that, it's actually really easy. So I try to sort of, yeah, so maybe that sticks in their head that this is, because I think people see it as being just too hard as well. Like, they've tried all these other diets over the years where they're calorie deficit type diets, and they were starving and not satiated, and so they just think it's all too hard. Whereas I try to emphasize, look, I'm feeling really, I'm full all the time, I'm not hungry, I'm satisfied. So yeah, in that 10 20 seconds, try to get that across more than the weight loss. Yeah,
And I guess, like, if you've got your list there and you're going like, I'm not snoring anymore, no bleeding gums, teeth are stronger, blah," and, like, people would be thinking, "Oh, it's only a matter of time before she tries to sell me something or invites me to an Amway meeting," you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, but yeah, it's just when people are interested, it's just you give them what they want and then,
yeah.
maybe they'll be ready in future. Yeah. So, um you mentioned that you wanna get more into exercise. Um, that the scene behind you, I realize that's a virtual background, but is that actually the view from your place?
Well, because my exercise often is mowing because we live on acreage. So
Uh,
my exercise, and we've got lots of terraces. We're on a hill, so we've got lots of little flat areas, and then there's lots of it I can't do on the ride of a mower. So I do a lot of exercise, particularly in summer, and I'm forever trying to catch up on the mowing. I've got so much mowing to do out there currently, um, and so that is a lot of like I'll spend two. I mean, when I have 2 weeks off at Christmas time, I'll be out there every afternoon if I can. If we're not out or something, I'll be out there in the cool of the afternoon mowing for 2 to 3 hours, just trying to get on top of everything. And then there's obviously the weeding and trimming things as well, the bushes and everything as well. So yeah, there is lots of lovely places around here to go walking, although I don't necessarily haven't got to that. So I've got to try to get to that. I mean, maybe that's a goal for my husband and I. A few years back, we did a thing over the Christmas holidays where we were going for a walk once a day together, and it lasted for the whole 6 weeks of the holidays. Well, we didn't have the kids at school and stuff, um, but then we fell back into old ways. And I remember we'd go off because it was so hot. We'd go over night time, like I once almost stood on a snake because I couldn't see it because it was dark and stuff like that. So there's lots of animals around too that I want to keep. I prefer to go sort of between that 4 to 7 time of an evening when you can still see where you're walking and you're going to step on something you don't want to step on.
just, just for me, kind of, feeling like I'm back home talking to you, like, what kind of dangerous animals would you find around you? Like, I remember where I lived in Melbourne, there was redback spiders everywhere in the garden, and we were just in suburbia, like, is it snakes around you?
It's snakes because we're in so the bush is this is off our back veranda. So when you've got like this sort of bush type stuff, like native bush around you, you tend to have more pythons and tree snakes tend to be the snakes that inhabit that. So and they keep away the browns, which are deadly. But saying that, down the bottom of our hill near the road, we do there's a creek down there, so we do occasionally see browns down there. I think because it's been a bit more
Oh.
clear over the years down around the road and stuff that the odd brown. But they reckon if you've got pythons and stuff, so pythons aren't venomous. They can give you a bite, and it can get infected, but they're not venomous as such. And the same with tree snakes. So if they're up off the ground, usually they're okay. So we're always getting little pythons in pot plants and things like that. But we do get a few red belly blacks, but they're meant to be good once they get older as well. We get a few, I don't know, snakes. We don't know what they are. So I'm always that's why I like to get the mowing down because if the grass is less high, then you can see things. It's just when I'm in weeding and garden beds and stuff, I've got to be careful. I try to make lots of noise as I go. That's my sort of strategy to try to so they know that there's someone here and they'll slither away before I get to them. That's my tactic.
So, you're in Queensland?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
just outside Brisbane.
Do you get huntsman spiders in Queensland?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
I
big.
showed my daughter was born in Japan, and I showed her a picture of a huntsman spider the other day, and she was like, "What's this?" It's yeah.
Yeah, if they,
It's,
we can certainly get huntsmans and geckos. I mean, they're not native, but we get geckos sometimes. Do
yeah.
this, like we'll open the door to go outside of a night time. This gecko will fall on top of you or something. Like in summer, like they're not around in winter. You'd like jump out of your skin.
The
But
the
yeah, huntsman
geckos are kinda
spiders.
cute, though. Yeah, geckos are kinda cute because they look like they're always smiling, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but, yeah,
They can
and
land on you. Oh, the same with spiders, they can land on you.
oh, yeah. The huntsmen are good though because they take care of the flies, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. And they're not poisonous, so,
Mm,
yeah. I mean, we don't really I mean, I think we can get redbacks up here, but I haven't seen any.
mm,
I think, yeah, we're not too bad spider-wise. I mean, I'm still careful when I'm in the garden and stuff. But, yeah, it's more the snakes that are the worry just because they can really hurt you. And with the
yeah.
dogs too, I try to worry about them sometimes with that they're going to attack if there's a snake. But our older dog is really good. She lets us know now. If she sees a snake, she'll just sort of bark, do a different sort of bark and let us know there's a snake outside.
Ah, okay.
So we know. And then my husband's got a snake stick and he'll go, if it's a python or a tree snake, it'll climb onto the snake stick and he'll go walk it off into the bush somewhere.
Wow.
Um, so, and I've even
Nice.
done that now. I'm never used to, but I've actually, with little ones, I'll do them, but not big ones.
Yeah, I think I'd be running in the other direction. Um, well, after that, that discussion about, poisonous animals or venomous animals, um, so Lynn, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anywhere that people can reach out to you if, they wanna get in touch, like Instagram or somewhere?
I haven't got Instagram or anything. I've got it's travelingox at yahoo.com.au is an email address if people have any queries or anything. Yeah, happy to answer through that. I'm not big on, I did used to, I have got a YouTube channel that I did one video on 10 years ago. It was about making a flower cart. But yeah, it's not relevant really to, and I don't even know how to get into it now.
No.
Not really relevant to carnivore. But yeah, yeah.
No, no worries. Well, I'll link to that in the description, and, I really appreciate you coming on, Lynn. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
And Dave, thank you for having me on. And it's just been wonderful. I think one of the things I mentioned to you in the emails prior, but is that I love listening to your videos. I listen to them routinely on my way to work and when I'm driving. It's my morning go to. And if I don't finish in the morning, I'm disappointed. I've got to wait till the afternoon. I'm driving home. It's lovely having a community of like minded people out there and just getting tips from everyone, the comments people make. It's lovely to hear people's stories of how they've improved their health in so many vastly different ways. So it's great what you're doing. So thank you and good luck to everyone. It's wonderful and hopefully we can spread the word and let more people know. So thank you.
So, Lynn, how did you hang on.